Good evening. I needed this. And I needed to be here tonight. I needed this and I needed to be here. I've been on the road probably 70% of the time the last 6 or 7 months. And I'm tired and my soul is weeping. And I'm going to talk to you tonight, but I'm not talking on the political spectrum. I could care less about where you sit on the political spectrum. I'm talking to you about what does it take to actually realize the potential that is embodied in hope. You know, hope is a strategy. And hope is also a discipline. And I'm learning that discipline. And so before I get into the place-based work and what I think about the CDC here, I want to lay out a couple of things that I think are generational challenges for us as a nation. And they're going to be waiting for us whether we deal with them today or 1,000 years from now. And what angers me about these opportunities is that we're smart enough to deal with them right now. But there's a problem. Our souls can't see the humanity of everyone and work in service of their thriving. You know, Mark Twain used to talk about how segregated Sundays are. I often wonder how we could go to service on Saturday or Sunday and be so darn hateful. It blows my mind. And we applaud it, and we think that it is something to be celebrated. Well, you know, the reality is this. I want you to hold a number, 100 million people. 1 in 3 people in this nation are economically insecure. 50 million of them are white, and the other half are people of color. What started out as a structural design to harm me and my family has jumped host now. And folks are mad at people who still look like me, and we had nothing to do with the design of this nation. Now they're mad at immigrants. Had nothing to do with the design of this nation. Who got rid of the unions? Who outsourced jobs? Wasn't people that look like me. And yet we're still being scapegoated, and people say, Michael, don't talk about race, which I rarely talk about race anyway, because people don't want to hear me talk about it. But somehow the very folks who say don't talk about race always seem to talk about race. And use me as the leverage point to their agenda. And I'm sharing that to you tonight. Because this political season is going to hurt us all. It's going to hurt us all. It doesn't matter where you sit on the political spectrum. It's going to hurt us all because we are not focused on results, folks. We're focused on political, ideological battles that, quite frankly, have exhausted their usefulness. I'm not trying to win an ideological battle. I'm trying to improve the lives of that 100 million folks struggling to make ends meet. Those people don't know a political season. And I have to be willing to serve every single one of them. Whether they're white, Asian, black, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. And so when I come into a place like this, I have great joy because when I bounce around the country, my heart isn't filled with exclusion. I can go to any city in this country and I'm happy because I'm there to serve whoever needs to be served. That's a liberating place to be. So I want you to ask yourself, are you willing to serve whoever needs to be served? Because I find it fascinating that we look at data so much. Data, 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 until the data says, serve someone that looks like me. And then we have all the reasons why we just can't do that. But where I live in California, the consequences of neglecting public goods now has folks in California who make $300,000, $400,000 feeling like they're poor. You know why? Take public education as an example. If you make $300,000 or $400,000 at Google, You don't realize that the reason why that public education system isn't good is because it was designed to keep white kids from being educated next to black kids. And now, if you have money, it's not the best option. So if you make $300,000 or $400,000, you can't afford your rent or mortgage and private school. So when I say what was designed for me has jumped host, that's what I mean. Because in the most liberal state in the country, supposedly, it has been one of the most racist around education policy, and yet it turns its nose up at the South all the time. And the folks who come there don't even realize that what they are dealing with is the vestiges of a public policy solution that has not been resolved. That public good is not a public good anymore. And you see that all around the country. And so I'm going to talk to you about place-based work and what I think about it, because I think this is where this nation is going to either succeed or fail. It is right here in a community. It is right here. You all are the nation builders of the nation yet to be born. You all have to be the nation builders of the nation yet to be born. And let me tell you why I say that. First I want to congratulate Omega CDC because, it is rare to get a Promised Neighborhoods grant. It is really, really hard to get a Promised Neighborhoods grant. It says a lot about this community, and I know because PolicyLink designed Promised Neighborhoods for the Obama administration and gave it to them. I came to PolicyLink to run the National Promised Neighborhoods Institute to make sure that the program became permanent. And so when I say I've been on the road a lot, I've been on the road seeing this good work all around the country for the last 13 years. And it's frustrated me that as I watch CDCs like Omega and so many other community-based groups do good work, I see their work getting undercut all the time. Those back in the day, it was 10 results in like 14 or 15 indicators. I don't know how many it is today. But if you care about school mobility, you care about early childhood development, language proficiency, you can't just solve those problems with charity. The reason you can't solve them with charity is because the design of a place trumps your charity. I'll give you a practical example. Think about all that we know about lead-based paint. You can give nonprofits millions and millions of dollars, but if you do not get lead out of the water and you do not get lead out of the house, it is going to impact cognitive development of children. And then we'll turn around and blame the CDCs and say, you see, we gave them millions of dollars and they couldn't get that indicator going up. It's actually unfair to them. And so what I want you to begin to hold is charity, immediate human relief for people who need help today, and the liberating work that has to also accompany that charity. That's the generational work that has to be held together now. At the height of when I was running the Promised Neighborhoods Institute, we were helping over 300,000 children. And I was often frustrated every night because I knew that while those children would do well at one particular developmental stage, they were going to run into all sorts of obstacles that were going to make most of them fall back into poverty. And that has nothing to do with their competence, has nothing to do, for the most part, with their parenting. If you look at Ross Chetty's mobility data, his mobility data basically says mobility is dead in America, no matter what color your skin. It basically says your zip code, where you were born, is going to be where you die. That is not the American dream. And we've been working like hell to hide that brutal fact from Americans. That the idea of upward mobility has stalled out in this country. And it's stalled out because we've decided that we no longer are going to use public policy to fuel driving people into the middle class and beyond. Charity didn't make the middle class in America. Public policy did. FHA, the GI Bill, public education system, public university system. Those were the things that made America great. For some. Not for all yet, but for some. And at the very moment when we say evidence-based practice, we should all use evidence-based practice. I'm always fascinated that now we have outsourced mobility to the nonprofit sector instead of the government sector. There is no evidence that the nonprofit sector has ever built in mass, at scale, economic mobility. I'm standing here while my two sisters are still in poverty because opportunity is too random in America. And we're better than this, folks. And you're showing that in this community. We're better than this. And I haven't asked of you because when I come to places like Dayton, I get excited because you all get stuff done here. You have a scale of problem that is solvable. You have the connections and the social fabric in a community to get things done. You have the assets that a lot of bigger cities don't have. And I think it's time for you to start showing the nation the way forward. You know? You know, Dayton is a place of innovation, and there's a new innovation that is needed, and it starts with our souls. It starts with our souls. Before we even get to money, money is needed. But just imagine what this city could produce if it just said, I expect that no matter where you sit on the political spectrum, no matter what your faith is, you just will not hurt people, especially if you're in a leadership position. Just imagine if we did that. One place. No money, no money. You just established a new social way of relating to each other. You know, democracy is about associational life. How will we be in relationship with each other? I'm asking you to think about what would it look like if you had a new standard for your leadership? Whether you run a police department, a healthcare system, a school district, a CDC, one standard: we will not hurt people. Imagine what that would get you. In many instances, we wouldn't even need a lot of the nonprofit infrastructure if we just did our darn jobs in the public systems that we have. Think about that. So for all the people who want to talk all of a sudden about saving money, imagine if you were just humane. Before you got to saving money, imagine if, because you can't save money when you're inhumane. See, that's the irony, that's the foolishness. We get so smart that we are really stupid. How do you save money when you keep hurting people? And never then wanting to tend to all of the outcomes of that. See, that's what we're doing in our communities every day. On one side, we sit at these tables and we wax poetic about public policy. We wax poetic about what I would do to solve the problem. And yet, because your soul is so calcified, you don't even actually get that. You can't even get to a solution because the harm that you're doing outpaces any good. That's what we're doing in communities all around this country. And I really want you to hold that because sometimes you just got to get still. You know, my dad used to say, I come from while I'm not a preacher, I come from all my uncles are. And my dad was not a preacher, but he knew the scripture, and he always used to say to me sometimes when I would get all worked up about stuff, he used to say, Michael, sometimes you got to watch as well as pray. And what he's really asking me to do was still my spirit. It's time for our communities to be still for a moment. It's time for you to recognize we are at a crossroads, and you will not outthink the crossroads. You will not report yourself out of this crossroad. You will not consultant your way out of this crossroad. You will not, let's bring another Harvard speaker in out of this crossroad. You're not getting out of this crossroad until you look in the mirror. You're just not. Even at PolicyLink, I tell people, there's not another white paper that I can write. There's not another public policy idea I can come up with. There are plenty already out there. The problem is we don't have vessels to receive those ideas. We don't have vessels to receive those ideas because too many of us don't want to work for the other. We had this problem come up at PolicyLink. PolicyLink is a place that, I think it's a gift to the nation. You can't work there if you can't talk about race, class, gender, all sorts of things that most places people run away from. And so when we centered that $100 million in our work, the people of color asked me, and I had just took over as CEO, they said, Michael, can we just work on the 50 million of people that are of color because nobody really wants to work on their issues? And I was hurt for a lot of reasons. The first is I understood that question was not coming from a negative place. It was coming from a place like, if everybody else was afraid to work on our issues, can we at least do it? And then I was hurt because I had to say no. And if I lose out on this no, I'm going to quit working at PolicyLink. Because even though people say equity is a bad word, our definition of equity is just and fair inclusion into a society in which all can participate, prosper, and reach its full potential. The operative word is all, so I don't know how I got so twisted. The operative word is all. It didn't say black, it didn't say white, it didn't say Asian, it says all. And just and fair inclusion into a society is a nation-building definition. It's not a charity definition. And so what I'm asking you to think about is, what would it look like if you took a founder's stance in this moment? A founder's stance for this nation. A founder's stance that said, I have the capacity to reimagine how systems work for each other. We have that ability in this room right now. Some folks think they're going to do something because they say, don't say DEI. How foolish. You can't make me stop doing this work. My daddy paid the price for that. My mom paid the price for that. I don't have to be quiet, right? And here's the ultimate reality. The people who say that, they ask need DEI. They're struggling, they're hurting. You need something. You need something. I don't use those words. I'm talking about the aspiration of those words. And here's why I don't use those words. Because they took diversity, they took inclusion, they took equity. Pretty soon they're going to take belonging. I don't have any more words left. The only word that I have left and I can't lose is all, folks. That is the unfinished business of our democracy. That is the word embodied in our Constitution that we have yet to realize its potential. That has to be our word. That has to be our word. But it can't be your word if your soul isn't right. It can't be your word if I can look you in the eye and I won't work in service of your thriving. That's why I say this is generational work. We don't have to fight about DEI. We don't have to fight about the words. That's somebody else's fight. It's not mine. Because no matter what city I'm in, I already said I'm going to work for everybody. That's the standard. That's the standard. And here's the ultimate reality. No one is standing in your way of doing the work. No one has stopped me. No one gets in my path. You all ought to stop doing good work because someone has a protestation. I want you to really hear what I said here. You all need to stop. Think about how in this community also, because someone doesn't like something, you all give up before one even told you to stop. The reality of living in a free society is everybody gets to advance their vision of America. Everybody gets to, I don't begrudge folks who want a very different vision of America than me. They have that right. And I'm going to assert my right too. And if you want to stop me, let's see what happens. Folks, it's real now. The work that you are doing in this community is too important to be stopped because someone doesn't like it. And you don't have to fight with them. You don't have to criticize them. You don't have to call them names. It's their right to not like it. And it's your right to love them anyway and get up every day and do the work for the community and do it for them too. That's what I was taught. I think that's what my faith orientation says too. So what I'm asking you to think about is this. If you care about all these children, if you really want them to realize the hope and promise of what this nation can really offer them, I want you to set about building that nation. I want you to set about building that nation. I want you to set about thinking about what does it mean for you to get in a new relationship with each other. A relationship that is not about warring on the political spectrum, not simply trying to find like-minded liberals or whatever. It's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to declare a result that you want to change and change it. And be willing to go wherever the pursuit of that result takes you. Sometimes it'll be a conservative solution. Sometimes it'll be a moderate solution. Sometimes it might be a progressive solution. Who cares? Who cares? The folks in community every day are saying, just help me. Folks in community every day saying, y'all stop fighting, help us. These kids are saying, can the adults please stop? You know, I just had my first grandchild. And I look at him sometimes and I say, man, what kind of world are you coming into, dude? You know, what kind of world are you coming into? And then I'm hopeful. Because I get to instill in him, along with his mother and his father and so many other loved ones, a way of being that can overcome the severe hate and indifference that we experience today. And I want you to overcome the severe hate and indifference that we are experiencing today. And I want you to remember that we have overcome it repeatedly. Oppressed peoples have never been defeated. Never. Never. Just never have. You should think about our grandparents, our great-grandparents. They went through all this before. We know the drill. We know the drill. And I want you to think about what's happening in this hope zone. This hope zone needs to be the model for the nation. It needs to be the model for the nation for a couple of things. One, because you already are modeling what it looks like to get real results and outcomes for children at a significant scale. You're already doing that. So that's first. So we all should be telling that story and lifting that story up everywhere we go. But second, imagine if you really did take me up on this offer to say, you know what? I'm going to pull all my leaders together and say, I have one charge. We're going to create a new standard of how we govern and relate to each other in this community, in this city. It's not been done, folks. I keep saying this to people. I'm waiting for a community to take me up on it. Isn't it amazing how we don't take up stuff that's free? Work avoidance. Work avoidance. I'm not talking about budgets. No budgets are tight. I know your own pocketbooks are tight. If I was the preacher, I'd say, I'm giving you your salvation. I'm giving you a path to it. But since I'm not, I'm going to let you decide on that one. I want you to stop hurting folks. I want you to imagine new systems. What would a health system look like that didn't treat black mothers so horribly. I'm saying it's race or not, I'm just saying when you look at the numbers, black mothers shouldn't be going to the hospital for care. You're having a baby, it ain't the best place for you. That's what the data says, not what Michael McAfee says or PolicyLink says. It says you probably got better options. That's an example. Imagine what that would look like if the healthcare system said, you know what, I'm going to reimagine this system so we get good outcomes for everybody. Period, full stop. Any mama that comes in here, we're going to get good outcomes. See, that's the unfinished work that we got to do. But do we have to have a board meeting about that to say, you know what? I think we can help black mamas. See, when we're having board meetings to answer these questions, you're seeing the problem that is in front of us. I don't have to ask permission to help people. What a freeing organization to work at that doesn't have to ask permission just to do their job. I don't know about this community, but too many communities that I go to, folks really do have to have board meetings to decide, is it safe enough for us to help those people? Can we do that? Well, what I'm asking you to consider, this nation will not get better if we don't do this work. And each and every one of us is authorized to do this work because the nation has gotten to a better place. Now it's time for us to do our generational work. You know, a friend of mine at Virgin Ignite used to say, Michael, I always ask myself the question, what will I love into existence? What will I love into being? I want you to ask yourself that. We know we got the programs and services down. Now let's support Omega CDC and get the rest of it down, so that those outcomes and our return on investment goes higher and higher. I want Dayton to love a new nation into being. A nation that can finally live into its founding documents. One simple word, that's all it is, all. Can we love all? Can we govern for all? Can we serve all? Can we design communities for all? It's a simple charge, but it's a hard one. And some of you all will walk out of this room and be like, you know, that all sounded good, but how do you do that? Because we always got to debate stuff. There is no debate here. What I'm telling you is it's going to be sitting here waiting for you. You're going to keep coming back to the all because there is nothing left. The tension that you're experiencing in community, it's because we haven't lived into the all. The bad outcomes that you're seeing in community still, it's because we haven't lived into the all. We've got some house cleaning to do. I think this is actually a fabulous season. It's probably one of the best seasons to be doing work, because in a season where people have a lot of despair, in a season where leaders have abdicated their responsibility to lead, it is wide open if you are a results-based leader with a vision. This is your season. This is not a season to despair. This is a season for you to remember, no matter where you come from in this community, that your ancestors paid a price. Greatness runs through your veins in this room. It's time to activate that. Get away from the television, because if you watch that, you will be depressed. Get away from that. I'm always fascinated that when I come to communities, I don't see what I see on all the cable channels. I don't know all that fighting and stuff that they're talking about. I see something very different. I see people in relationship like in this room. You all are all you got. And coming from Kansas City, sometimes places like ours, we don't think that we should be playing at the national level. You all are national leaders now. You all must be national leaders as well as local leaders. You must show this nation how to get beyond itself. And I think you can do that. It's embodied in the hopes and aspirations of these young people. It's embodied in the mission statement of Omega CDC. It's embodied in your hopes and dreams for your family members. So as I close, I want you to think about being founders. Not just folks who are participating in this democracy, thinking that it is settled business. It is not. Our democracy is a living organism. And John Gardner warned us about what happens when we don't trouble the question of what needs to self-renew in our institutions and in ourselves. This is a self-renewing moment. It's a self-renewing moment, folks. It's time for us to think about how do we increase the capacity of our institutions to serve all? How do I increase the capacity as an individual to serve all? That's the work I got to do. And I say hope is a discipline because every day that I get up, I move around in worlds where, it's hard to sit in a room with people who want to make my mother stand in line for 8 hours to vote and make it illegal to give her water and not knock the shit out of them. But that's real, folks. That's the world that I live in. That's the world that I live in. That's what people think of my mother. They think so little of her, they want to make her wait in line for 8 hours to vote. And then they've even said it will be illegal for me to give her water. This is our America right now. This is not 1950, 1960. So imagine how hard it is every day to move around this country and have to be in rooms like that. For no good reason. Folks want to hurt you. And you have to love anyway. I share that story and I use that language intentionally because it hurts that bad. It hurts that bad. And I want you to understand, folks, people are hurting that bad. And I want you to ask yourself, what would you do if people treated your mother like that? I bet you, as a black man, I know what would happen to me if I did other people's mother like that. I know what would happen to me. We're better than this. But what I can tell you that is founding a new nation. That is founding behavior. We may not like it. It is structurally founding a new nation that will turn this nation into South Africa. It is founding behavior. Founding behavior is tending to the structural things, the legal and regulatory framework, the ways institutions will behave. And it is time now for you all to be founders. Man, imagine when we activate and there's an alternative to making my mother stand in line for 8 hours to vote, and we're not ashamed to advance it. So as I close, I want you to stop working in the shadows. Be proud of this work. Hold your head high because of this work. Stand on the shoulders of your ancestors and look on the horizon and say, what is your generational work to do? How tragic if you prosecute what they've already won for you. You don't need to do their work. Accept the invitation. Accept the invitation. I don't even come and give these speeches anymore. The only reason I came here is because of this community and the results that you're getting. It's the only reason I came here. And I don't give these speeches anymore because there's really nothing else left to say. Either we're going to be the manifestation of love in each other's lives or we will not. That's it. And so I want to thank you for inviting me into your space because I'm leaving more hopeful than when I came. I'm leaving energized because of the conversations that I've had, what I've witnessed here, what I know that you all are doing, and the promise of what is possible. You know, the state of Ohio is pivotal in our nation's politics. Imagine if you turned Ohio into a pivotal state because of our nation's consciousness. That's what I'm asking you to think about. Other folks may have the politics on lock. I want you to get the consciousness on lock. A consciousness about all. A consciousness that transcends political ideology. A consciousness that says if you are a black person, you can get excited about working for a white person, an Asian person, a Latino person, and vice versa. That's the charge. Some of you may say, well, that's a hard pill to swallow. It's not. It's a joy-filled pill to swallow. It's a freeing pill to swallow. I want you to think about when you take your last breath, what did you love into being? I hope you do not get caught up in what this nation is caught up in right now. Because there are CDCs and other organizations in this community that need you to stay focused on them as folks get ready to get distracted. I'm already seeing it around the country. Folks are saying, I don't know if I can support this work. Because people may not like it. We're going to let all of our organizations go out of business only to have to reconstitute them all over again. How tragic would that be? So stand strong in this moment. Stand strong in it. You got something to be proud of here. You got something to be very proud of here. And the last thing I'll say is this. A lot of times when I come to rooms like this, they're not very diverse. I wish you would look around. Look at the diversity in this room. That is a gift. That's why I said thank you for what you've built. You know, I used to have to ask, what's the room going to look like? Because I would not go to rooms that were all one thing. I didn't have to ask that question here because I knew the leadership. I didn't have to ask that question here because I knew the leadership and I knew what I would walk into because of that. This in this room is your superpower. This is your superpower right here. So when things get tough, I really want you to hold on to what I've said. I want you to hold on to this nation about what would happen if Ohio became the consciousness for this nation, the nation yet to be realized, that could create a just and fair society, one in which all can participate, prosper, and reach their full potential. I'm going to pray that that's what you all love into being. Thank you.